my name is Gavin Berlyak, and this is Too Strong to Curtsy, Men Trying to Reign on Our Parade. From the parade in 1913 to the ratification of the 19th Amendment in 1920, women have been fighting for years for their right to vote. The 19th Amendment was a significant turning point socially because women were able to be hired onto the workforce of many businesses and factories. It was a turning point culturally because women were able to leave the house and complete other tasks on their own, from being a part of the military to publishing their own novels. It was the largest turning point in the political field too. Women are now representatives, senators, and we now have the right to vote. Monday, March 25th, 1890. As Mary Wollstonecraft once said, "I do not wish women to have power over men, but over themselves." I got a flyer from a woman down the street today. She told me I needed to join some society called the National Women's Party so I can have rights in the near future. The newsletter said wanted equalities, control of their property, right to make contracts, citizenship rights, control of national, state, and local government, opportunities in schools and universities, opportunities in government services, and pay for equal work. I was curious, so I asked Mother. She only retorted with, "Women have a very good life just the way it is. Cleaning, cooking, and staying at home are just what women were made for. It's a very dangerous task to go up against men, for there are worse things than getting a stern talking to, little miss." And I believed her, and I never thought again of the National Women's Party. Until now. I was still curious, so I visited the address on the flyer. Without Mother's consent, of course. A nice woman there greeted me warmly and embraced my curiosity. She said women's suffrage all began in 1840, when Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott went, or tried to get into, the World Anti-Slavery Convention in London. They weren't allowed in. In July 1848, Mott, Stanton, and a few other women were socially brought together. They decided to call for a convention to discuss the civil, political, and social conditions and rights for women. Stanton drafted 11 resolutions on a declaration of sentiments, the 9th resolution securing women the right to vote. The convention took place on July 19th and July 20th at the Wesleyan Methodist Church in Seneca Falls, New York, thus naming it the Seneca Falls Convention. The day of, 300 people, including 40 men, came within a 5-mile radius. All of the resolutions were unanimously passed, except for women's suffrage. A man by the name of Frederick Douglass swayed the audience into agreeing with it. The press brought down a torrent of sarcasm and ridicule on the proceedings in Seneca Falls. This was, however, just what Elizabeth Cady Stanton wanted all along. During this time period, many other things were going on. Segregation and civil rights were brought to the forefront of the political battlegrounds. During segregation, African Americans were separated from second-class white people by schools, prisons, transportation, public accommodations, recreational facilities, and armed forces. Schools for the white children gave all the old books and supplies to the African American schools. Then, on a Monday in history that will never be forgotten, a parade took place that changed the thoughts of men and women across the nation. The Parade of 1913. Monday, March 3rd, 1913. Lawyer Inez Milholland led a women's suffrage parade down Pennsylvania Avenue. Behind her were 9 bands, 3 heralds, 4 mounted brigades, approximately 24 floats, and 5,000 marchers. One of them being me. This, my friends, was the mere beginning of the Parade of 1913. Women from across the country joined us in this march. Just think, 5,000 people. Wow. While we were marching, men gathered in the streets, shoulder to shoulder, wave after wave, trying to stop the parade from going any further. It was almost impossible for us to pass between the men. Almost. All those poor women, including me, were jeered at, shoved, tripped, grabbed, and called indecent epithets, even by the police. Ambulances came and took over 100 marchers, give or take a few. Many of us completed the route. When we got to the Treasury building, we put on a sort of play. It was to show those ideals toward which both men and women have been struggling with throughout the ages, and towards which, in cooperation and equality, they will continue to strive. It began with the Star-Spangled Banner. A person in national colors playing Columbia entered. At the end, Columbia was surrounded by justice, liberty, charity, peace, and hope. That was me. This showed the world something. It showed that we were too strong, even though men tried to rain on our parade. That might be able to be used in the future. Since 1913, women have been targeting the White House for picketing. Daily picketing began January 10th, 1917. During the same year, over 1,000 marchers from across the country joined us in this march. Between June and November of 1917, 218 protesters from 26 states were taken prisoner. They would stand silent, not uttering a single word, holding signs that read, "Mr. President, what will you do for women's suffrage? And how long must women wait for liberty?" Then it happened, the best thing that ever happened in the history of America, a turning point that changed history socially, politically, and culturally. The 19th Amendment. What was your question again? What I think about Tennessee, the 19th Amendment, and how they are related? Oh, that's quite the question. I'm glad you asked. As your Mayor, Kim McMillan, I'll answer that for you the best that I can. Let's go back a little. In 1878, a constitutional amendment was proposed. The right of a citizen to vote shall not be abridged by the United States or by any state on the account of sex. This was proposed at every congressional meeting for the next 41 years. In May 1919, it required 2/3 of Congress to vote yes for this amendment. By May 1920, primarily southern states opposed this amendment. It was all to Tennessee. Yes, Tennessee. Tennessee's General Assembly was called by Governor Albert H. Roberts. He wanted to discuss 142 things. One of them was to fix the legal status of women and to prescribe the qualifications of women for suffrage. To put it in a clearer way, he wanted to discuss the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Now, 35 of 48 states already voted yes for this amendment, which meant one more state was needed for the required 3/4 majority to make 17 million women in America still have the right to vote. It was 49 people voted yes, and 46 people voted no. Tennessee went down in history as the 36th state to ratify the 19th Amendment, and Governor Albert H. Roberts signed that bill August 24th. From the parade of 1913 to the ratification of the 19th Amendment in 1920, women have been fighting for years for the right to vote. The 19th Amendment was a significant turning point culturally because women were able to leave the house and complete other tasks on their own, from being a part of the military to publishing their own novels. It made a turning point socially because women were able to be hired into the workforce of many businesses and factories. It made the largest turning point in the political field too. Women are now representatives, senators, and we now have the right to vote.